Hi food lovers, it's Emily, your dietitian from Anywhere Nutrition, and today we are going plant-based and making black bean burger bowls. So we're going plant-based just as a way to add more vegetables and plant-based proteins into our diet. We're not doing this because we can't eat red meat or we shouldn't eat red meat. We're just doing it to get some more variety into our diet, and whatever sounds good to you, that's great. So that's what we're going for here, is flavor and nutrition. So we're starting out with these black bean burgers. I have the recipe here on my device. You can head on over to my website, my blog. I have this recipe up. You can download it digitally, or you can just print it out so that you have it for your recipe book. So we're starting out by opening up our can of black beans and patting them dry. And why are we doing that? We want the beans to be mostly dry. Otherwise, the black bean burgers will be too moist, too liquidy, and they won't hold together well. So I'm just patting them dry. I had already drained the can into the sink, so I'm just patting them dry to get some of the liquid off. For the most part, they are pretty dry. This variety of beans I'm using is from a company called Eden, and the reason why I pick this brand specifically is because Eden adds kombu. Kombu is a seaweed material to the bean can, and it's kind of like a shortcut. So if you were to traditionally make black beans by soaking them and cooking them for a couple of days, it helps to break down the nutrients in there called lectins, and some people don't digest lectins well, and that's why you can have digestive symptoms after consuming beans, more like digestive symptoms. So by buying beans that have kombu added, that helps to basically speed up that process or mimic the same process without having to go through the process of actually buying dried beans, soaking them, and cooking them for several days. So look for this brand in your grocery store. It's awesome. I don't know of any other company that is currently doing that. So I've patted my black beans dry, and then I'm going to add them to a bowl here that I've already started with some mashed black beans. So we have about 2 cups of black beans that we're starting out with this recipe. And I'm just going to take a fork and I'm just mashing down these black beans to basically make them into a paste. So think about what you would want to be making a burger out of, and trying to get them to that ground mushed texture. So there are other beans that you could use for this recipe. You could use garbanzo beans or chickpeas, but this is a traditional, of course, black bean burger. It has such good flavor, and then again, the texture holds really well together. So the next step for this recipe can technically be done in a blender or a food processor to speed it up. I want to show you how you can make this recipe without any fancy kitchen utensils. So we're going to be doing it all by hand. So once these are all mashed up, we're going to move on over to adding in our red bell pepper, some garlic, and oats to hold the patties together. So there, that's looking pretty good. And this will get mushed together even a little bit more when we add in the other ingredients. So I'm going to set this one aside here. And then I have a red bell pepper. You could use any other type of bell pepper if you wanted to. Yellow, green, orange bell pepper would be just fine. I'd go with what has the most flavor for you. So what I've already done is I've gone and diced up this red bell pepper. If you were using a blender or a food processor, you'd throw this bell pepper. We have onions going in there, garlic. We're going to add an egg, cumin, sea salt, cayenne, and then after that we're going to add some oats. So I'm just going to finish dicing up this bell pepper to add to the recipe. And because I'm doing this by hand, I'm going to try to get it as small as possible. Otherwise, you'll just have some more red bell pepper chunks in your burgers if you leave them in bigger pieces. So we're going to go ahead and finely dice these. Safety first with your fingers. And this is about a medium size, small to a medium sized bell pepper if you're wondering what size to buy. Okay, so got these into the mix there, and I'm going to go ahead and add these bell peppers to my bowl, like this. And then I have my, you know my trick of freezing garlic. So I have my garlic thawed out here in this puck. I had already chopped that up, froze it with olive oil. So you have garlic there. You're gonna be cracking and adding in 1 whole egg, yolk and all, into there. And then I have all my spices already put together in a bowl. So again, we have salt, cayenne, cumins in there. Adding that to the bowl. And then we're gonna work on mixing this up together. So what I'm gonna use is a whisk. This will be another way to kind of mash together and get any loose ends of the black beans mixed up. So just lightly mixing them together, get all of the spices blended up. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect because we're gonna mash it by hand in the last part here to bring together all of the ingredients into a patty. The nice thing about the black beans is they work really well as a plant-based, substitute for burgers because they're really high in protein. So you don't have to worry about missing out on your protein goals just by choosing plant-based. So I'm just gonna tap out all of these remaining ingredients from the whisk there. And set that aside. Okay, so now we're gonna mix in 1.5 cups of oats. So these are old-fashioned oats, nothing fancy. You can use steel-cut oats. You could probably still get away with quick oats as well, but I like the old-fashioned ones. I like the flavor and the texture. So throwing these together, the oats are gonna help to soak up some of the liquid. So I didn't add the whole 1.5 cups, but I likely will because we're going to need it to soak up some of this liquid. And the nice thing, make sure you buy some extra oats. Like if you didn't buy a whole bag, we bought ours in bulk. We bought about an extra cup to add to this, because if your burgers aren't holding together well because of the liquid, then we're gonna add more oats. So nice thing about oats as well is what do they add? More plant-based protein. So, okay, so this mixture is all put together here, and we're gonna start forming our burgers. It smells so good. These spices are perfect. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna form these burgers, and then we're gonna put this into the freezer for a couple of hours so they can solidify together before we cook them on the stove top. So we're just, again, forming these into a patty. You can make them as thick as you want, but as far as making sure they get cooked all the way through, I'd keep them, to about 1/2 inch thick. So there's one burger. I'm setting that aside. I'll be putting that on a cookie sheet, and I'm just gonna do the same thing until I've gotten through to all of the burgers, and I'll show you what they look like when they come out of the freezer. Okay, when your burgers are ready, so they can sit in the freezer for up to 2 hours or until you're ready to cook. So I'm going straight from making them to stovetop. I have my cooktop greased here. You can use coconut oil. We're cooking at a medium to high heat. So coconut oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil would work great. Just getting a little bit of grease on the bottom of the pan there. And we're gonna cook these until they brown. And then we're going to flip them over. So really there's nothing that we need to cook to any sort of temperature because it's not raw meat. We're just cooking them until they have formed a crispy burger-like consistency on the outside. So roughly 8 to 10 minutes on each side. Flip them over, nice brown, crispy there. Perfect. Okay, we're gonna let them cook again until they get crispy on the other side, or about 8 to 10 minutes total. Okay, so my black bean burgers are cooked. They're off of the stovetop. They have that beautiful brown crisp on them, and now we're building our burger bowls. The reason why we're not putting these on a bun is as a way to keep our carbohydrates a little bit lower, because we know the oats and the beans are higher in carbohydrates. We don't want this whole meal to be overloaded with carbohydrates, so we want to make sure that it's macronutrient balanced. So we're serving this over a bed of greens. This is one of my go-to ones. I love the herbs that are mixed in here. There's fresh dill for some great flavor, but use any greens that you like. So I'm just gonna take one of my burgers, serve it in my bowl. I'm gonna serve it alongside some tomatoes. You could also throw in cucumbers. Avocado would be fantastic on this, or even a big dollop of guacamole. And then you can dress it with anything you like. We plan on putting olive oil on ours, but you can add mustard, even maybe a barbecue sauce would be good. So that is your black bean burrito bowl for your plant-based recipe today. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day.